Hello everybody, my name is Eric Marino and I'm going to be presenting my gallery New Beginnings. So first off, I'm going to start by presenting Yaddo's Lamentation. Now Yaddo's Lamentation was created in 1306. The subject of the art is religion, as you can see. We see a very religious environment. The stories from the Bible come to life. In the frescoes, we see a scene depicted from the Bible, and with the artist's imagination, the scene comes to life. In this fresco, we see Mary holding Christ as he dies in her arms, and with people weeping and lamenting around them. We see angels pulling their hair and crying and covering their faces. We see a lot of grief. Uh, the style of that era was medieval, but in this painting we see the artist starting to move to a more humane, focused, resonant style. The, the bodies are presented in a very humane way. All the people depicted has their own emotions and roles in the painting. This fresco was painted in the 1300s, and that's the beginning of a shift from a medieval style of painting to a Renaissance style, which shows the historical period of the painting. I think that the artist was trying to make a solid, very humane moment in which he depicts how everyone deals with grief. The scene in the fresco is a very sad scene. We see Christ dying in Mary's arms, and the style shows a very humane subjects and their emotions, which greatly contribute to the painting's message. All the bodies in the fresco serve a purpose in this case, to show their lamentation to Christ dying and their feelings, which align with the painting's message. Now, moving on to my second painting, moving on, we have Donatello's David. Now, Donatello's David is a sculpture that was created in the 1430s to 1440s. The subject of this sculpture is David winning over Goliath. And this represents how the Florence people view themselves as the underdogs, winning and defeating a powerful enemy. This culture represents the Republic of Florence and the Medici rule over the city. This culture presents a very early Renaissance style and takes its style from ancient Rome and Greece, where the body is worshipped. The sculpture of David is standing in the contrapasso position, a very carefree and sexual position. This sculpture represents David winning over Goliath, and this goes to show that the sculpture represents Florence winning over the Duke of Milan, which restates to the historical and cultural background. I think that the sculpture said, even though we are small and weak, we can still triumph over the strong because we have God in our side. I think that was the message that it wanted to deliver. The subject is David, and according to the Bible, David won over Goliath with the help of God, which is the message that the Florence people have wanted to express through this sculpture, which is we have God on our side. The way that the bodies are presented help the message, as we have David stepping on the severed head of Goliath. Now, moving on to the next, we have Peter Paul Rubens' Elevation of the Cross. Now, Peter Paul Rubens' Elevation of the Cross was created in 1610. The subject of Peter Paul Rubens' Elevation of the Cross is religion. Through this painting is depicting a bunch of people trying to help Jesus lift the cross and help with the burden of the cross and take some of the weight off his shoulders. Peter Paul Rubens' Elevation of the Cross presents a Baroque Catholic painting, and it presents a very majestic feel, and he shows a very majestic feel for his subjects. They are the strong men without shirts and very muscular. I think that Peter Paul Rubens wanted to express these moments as majestic and show people the burden that Jesus carried for us. The majestic vibe helps Peter with his message. Peter portrays a bunch of strongmen helping Jesus lift the cross, but it looks like it's taking all they have to maintain it afloat, which is very majestic to me. This painting shows the conflict of the era between the two different arts. For we had the church and society. Peter's painting portrays a bunch of strongmen helping Jesus lift the cross, but it looks like it's taking all they have to maintain it afloat, which really helps picture a very majestic scene, and it really helps contribute to his message. Now, moving on to uh, Rembrandt Van Regine, Autonomy Lesson of Dr. Tulp. And this painting was created in 1632. While in Rembrandt Van Regine Autonomy Lesson of Dr. Tulp, we have a teacher giving a lesson to his students about autonomy. Rembrandt presents a Protestant Baroque painting, and it brings a very sophisticated vibe by depicting a science scene in practice, like a science class in practice, and it brings a very sophisticated vibe. I think that Rembrandt wanted to express the importance and seriousness of science. The serious vibe and scene helps Rembrandt with his message, while Rembrandt depicts a very serious atmosphere by showing a teacher giving his students a lesson, and the students taking it in very seriously, which helps with the message. Rembrandt presents, excuse me, what was it? Rembrandt's brings a very sophisticated vibe by depicting science in practice and being taught. This painting shows the conflict of the era between the two different art styles for the Baroque, which where you can either paint for the church or society. And I think that this painting really helps depict the conflict of the era. Rembrandt, by showing the atmosphere, the very serious atmosphere, by showing the teachers giving his students a lesson, and the students taking it very seriously, it really helps with his message. Now, moving on to my next exhibition, we have David's Oath of the Hierarchy. So, we have Jacques Louis David Oath of the Hierarchy, oil on canvas. This painting was painted in 1784, and the subject of this painting is sacrifice. The sacrifices that people made for their country. David begins the new style of neoclassicism, which is an art that shows virtues of behavior. This painting becomes the symbol of the French Revolution and the value of the French people, and the values of the French people, which relates to the historical and cultural environment it was created. I think that David wanted to convey the sacrifice people make for their country. The simple and virtuous nature of the painting resonated with the people, which helped contribute to this message. The virtuousness and righteousness in which the bodies were the painted resonated with the masses instead of only the monarchy, and help people see the sacrifices which they contribute to their country, and it really helped with the message. Now, moving on to next one, we have Monet's Olympia. Now, in Monet's Olympia is an oil on canvas, and it was painted in 1863. Now, this painting is basically a nude woman posing for an artist, basically. So the subject of this painting is a beauty in a very natural and realistic form, depicted from a real person instead of ideal beauty. So the art style is academic art, which means that it was art that was approved by the official academy and government. The painting challenges beliefs at that time, as his painting strips away the mythology of beauty and presents a real thing, which relates to the cultural style it was created. I think that Edward wanted to present what he thought was the real beauty to his eyes and something that was real and not a mere fantasy. The academic female nude painting paints a fantasy and not a real person. Monet's painting challenged that by painting a real person instead of an idealistic beauty, which contributes to the message. So the woman depicted in the painting is looking straight at the person who views the painting, which makes it very real and uncomfortable to look at the painting because it makes you think about her as a real person, which contributes to the message. Now moving on, we have Donatello's David. Now moving on, we have our comparison. So we have Donatello's David versus Davis off of the Haratier. So I wanted to compare this painting because in a way it's very similar, as because it represents the symbol for its people. You know, Donatello's David represented the Florence people and the rule over of the Medici family, while Davis of the Horat represented the French Revolution, which makes this painting very symbol. This painting is very symbol. Painting and sculpture very symbolic because it shows two different ideas, but at the same time almost the same thing. So the main difference in these two paintings are that the way that the message is delivered across. For example, Donatello's David is a culture where nude David standing over the severed head of a Goliath, while Davis off of the Hariate is a painting that shows three brothers choosing to fight over for their country. So the main difference in these two paintings are that they wait. Davis of the Harati was trying to convey the patriotic and deep feelings of sacrificing yourself and your family for your country, while I think that Donatello's wanted to express the freedom and sense of pride and accomplishment that the people of Florence were having. So I think those are the main difference that this painting have, and the similarities, as I said before, where the both of them were symbolic symbols for their people, and they were a pretty big deal and still are today. And that was all for my presentation. Thank you for listening.